Hello, everyone, and welcome to this joint webinar between AADA and the CAS, focusing on the CAS pathway. So for those of you that don't know, AADA stands for the African Actuarial Development Academy. We exist to catalyze the development of the actuarial profession in Africa, and we do so across multiple pillars, including professional development, educational development, tutorials for exams, and mentorship as well. So just before I turn to introduce our topic and speakers, there are some housekeeping items. So this is intended to be a highly interactive webinar. Please feel free to use the chat for discussions and comments and use gestures to appreciate the discussion. The best place to put your question is in the Q&A. We will try to monitor the chat as well, but if you do not want your question to be lost, please use the Q&A so that we can track those questions. So today we are focusing on the CAS pathway. We do have a presentation from Katie Mulembe from the CAS, who's going to talk about the pathway. And then afterwards, we have a panel of actuaries from across Africa, the different stages of the pathway, who'll be sharing their experiences. The panel is going to be moderated by Samuel Annan, who is the chair of the CAS Africa work group. So just before I hand over to Katie, also happy to let you know that we do have a giveaway going on in the background. So we'll be giving away 2 CAS P&C Essentials course licenses, and that will be based on participation. So please pay attention, participate, use the Q&A, and at the end of the session, we will announce the winners. So with that, I will hand over to Katie.
Thank you, Yvonne. We are so happy to partner with AADA to bring you this session today. Thank you so much for being here. We are so glad that you're all here. Like Yvonne said, my name is Katie Mulembe. I work as the Director of International Relations and Affairs at the CAS, and you'll also hear from Samuel Annan, as well as an outstanding panel. Whether you're a university student or an early career actuary or simply exploring the career path, we're really glad that you're here. Today's session is really about understanding what a career in general insurance can look like and how the CAS credentialing pathway can help get you there. So here's what we have planned for today. We'll start with a brief overview of the CAS and our credentialing pathway, and then we'll hear directly from our panel of CAS members and candidates who have firsthand experience of navigating this journey. And we'll finish with time for your questions. So like Yvonne said, I really encourage you to use the chat throughout today's webinar. Don't hold back. We want to hear what questions you have. We want to clarify anything that you may not understand about the CAS, so please do ask your questions. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of the CAS has been educating general insurance actuaries for more than a century. We were started in North America, but today we are truly a global organization. We have nearly 12,000 members around the world who hold CAS credentials, and currently about 17% of people taking CAS exams now come from outside of North America, representing 53 different countries. And one of the most exciting areas of growth that we are seeing is an increase in students, employers, and universities in Africa who recognize the growing importance of general insurance expertise. So we are really glad that you're here with us, and we really see you as an essential part of the future of the CAS. So with this, I'm going to turn it over to Samuel to explain a little bit more about what the GI actuarial profession looks like.
Thank you so much, Katie. And yeah, I imagine everyone here is interested in hearing about the credential pathways and the exam process to get to the various credentials. But let's start with a 30,000-foot view. Look at what actuaries actually do in their day-to-day life. And I'm not going to go through each of these icons, but what I want you to take away is just how incredibly broad the risks are that general insurance actuaries deal with. And how it's different from, say, the life side. Life actuaries tend to focus on human-centric risks. So you're talking about health or death, so life insurance, or longevity in the form of pension risk. But everything else that has to do with property or business, financial risks, regulations, climate, weather, and catastrophic risks, everything else falls more closely with what GI actuaries are trained and equipped to do. So whenever you see advancement in technology, whether it's new satellites or AI, self-driving vehicles and robots, the kinds of actuaries who are going to be dealing with those type of risks will be GI actuaries. And if you find that kind of work interesting, then this could be the right path for you in your actuarial journey. What we're hoping to do through today's discussion is show you how the CAS pathway gets you to that type of career. Okay. Moving on, let's look at type of places that GI actuaries work. It could be academia, doing research or teaching, or banking and consulting, dealing with various financial and cash flow risks. Could also be government. I think I've lost your screen, Katie. All right. It could be government or regulatory agencies dealing with safety matters, impacting environmental issues and so forth. Or insurance and reinsurance, which tends to be the traditional area a lot of GI actuaries work in. And this provides the backstop to give entrepreneurs and businesses the ability to grow and take risks, because without that, the cost of failure becomes very high. And whenever a business runs into trouble, they're not able to come back. Right? And so you find actuaries working in insurance, reinsurance, also in technology. And so, in the US, you'd have companies like Uber, SpaceX, Tesla, for example, all hiring actuaries. Why? Because we are very equipped to deal with those types of new risks coming up that can provide a backstop for those types of businesses. All right, now let's look at why this matters for Africa. Africa is at a very important inflection point. You have a lot of changes on the legislative, the legal, and regulatory environment. The markets are maturing. You have rapid urbanization and economic development. And what that means is when you have economies get to that point, they're going to need ways to protect that kind of growth. So think about infrastructure development, for example, which is expanding rapidly in Africa. When you have a natural catastrophe, that could destroy the infrastructure. And if there's no way to protect that kind of investment, you're not going to have it grow. We are at that point where we need more people like you, students preparing to get into the actuarial field, coming in the general insurance track, learning the necessary skills and tools to be able to design the right products, the right insurance vehicles that different governments, businesses, and communities can use to protect themselves from the environment through for agricultural risks, protect food security, and just the democratization of finances across the continent. So there's no better time than now to be thinking about going into the general insurance track. All right. Now let's look at the exam pathway, how you actually get the credentials necessary to stand out as the right actuary to help in this area. Okay. The CAS is particularly unique and right for people interested in GI because of how it's designed. It's designed to be very practical. The exams are very transferable right from the book to what you do in your day-to-day life. So it's not just based on general theory. It's designed specifically to be very practical. CAS actuaries are also few. Very few people take this path. We like to think of ourselves as specialists in that sense. And that gives you an edge in a competition in the job market. There's a lot of demand, and people who have CAS credentials tend to stand out from the competition. And then finally, the CAS is globally recognized. No matter where you go in the world, on any continent, the CAS credential is recognized as a especially good credential to have if you're going to be in the general insurance path. Now, the exams are structured in 3 layers. The first layer is foundational. It's the kind of thing that you need to know to be able to build on. So you need to have some understanding of probability, for example, financial mathematics. But there are some other general knowledge items like accounting, economics, finance, and data and insurance topics surrounding analytics, risk management, and insurance operations, as well as the types of coverages that are usually sold in insurance laws and regulations. So that's that first layer in blue. It's foundational, and you can take it in any order, but you do not have to be a member to take these exams. And so students taking the CAS exams, unlike, say, the IFOA, don't have to pay membership dues to take these exams. Now, to become a member, we have 2 levels. We have the associateship, or the ACAS, and the fellowship, the FCAS. The ACAS is where the bulk of the education and exams occur. Once you're an ACAS, you're a bona fide actuary and you are a credentialed member of the CAS. And so you have 6 exams. I'm counting the course on professionalism as an exam as well, but it's not something that you sit for, you attend a conference for. And once you've satisfied these requirements, then you become a member of the CAS and you can practice using the CAS credential. If you want to go further into your education, you can take advanced courses in reserving, pricing, and enterprise risk management to get your fellowship. So these are the 2 main credentials for the CAS and the pathway to go. One thing I want to mention is you're not required on each of these levels to go in any particular order. You can take these exams in any order, depending on where you are in your career journey, what courses you're taking in school, or what you have particular interest in. You just need to meet each and every one of them before you get the various credentials. All right. I'll pass this back to you, Katie.
Okay, great. Thanks, Samuel. The CAS offers all of our exams 2 times a year with the MAS exams. So those are really the first 2 typical starting points for CAS exams. Those are offered more frequently at 4 times per year. Reach out to us if you have any questions about the availability of exam centers near you. The CAS partners with Pearson VUE to administer exams securely and reliably in centers all over the world. We regularly assess test site locations to ensure that they match the demand. And so if there is a demand, we want to know it. If we're not offering exams near you, please reach out and let us know, and we will see how we can make that possible for you. It's also important to mention that students who have completed certain requirements through organizations such as the IFOA or the ASSA, ASA, or the SOA may also be eligible for exam waivers from the CAS. Those first 2 requirements, the VEEs, those recognize coursework in accounting and finance or economics, and the CAS typically honors the list of SOA approved university courses for this. We also do not administer those exams 1 and 2, so we take credit earned either through passing an exam or earning an exemption from typically the IFOA or the SOA. So this can make the transition to the CAS pathway even smoother for many candidates who may feel like they've already started down an SOA or an IFOA track. Typically, it's not too late to switch over to the CAS, and you're going to hear a lot about that from our panel today. Also, I wanted to be sure to mention exam discounts. Affordability is a very important topic when it comes to these exams. So candidates in assistance qualified countries receive a 75% discount on CAS exams and discs. Most countries in Africa do qualify as assistance qualified. So I think as I browse through the list of attendees for today, I think all of you are coming from countries that are there. There's also no CAS membership fees until you've earned your credentials. So that's a cost savings along the way. And in addition, we provide opportunities for students to earn scholarships through various CAS programs and case competitions. So you'll find that these discounts do make the CAS one of the lower cost options to earning a globally recognized actuarial designation. Okay, so we wanted to provide that initial foundational knowledge of who the CAS is, since I know many of you are only minimally familiar with us, but we want to bring that to life through our panel discussion. So with that, I will turn it back over to Samuel, who will introduce our panel.
Awesome. Yeah, like you said, we've sort of provided a structural pathway. And so it will be good to see how that translates from paper to real life. And I can't think of a better way to do it than to bring people at different stages, different markets, different perspectives, to share their stories and provide a little bit of put a bit of flesh on the bones for the CAS pathway. We have a great group with us today. We've got Matthew Adebiyi, we've got Gloria Asare, Aubrey, Chewe, and Elvis Wanasunia. Thank you guys for joining, and lady.
Thank you.
For each of you, I will have you introduce yourself briefly. First, for just telling us who you are, where you're based, your connection to the African actuarial community, and then one question: what first attracted you to the general insurance track? So, who you are, where you're based, your connection to the African actuarial community, and then what first attracted you. So I'll start with you, Matthew.
Okay. My name is Matthew. I'm currently based in the US, but I'm a Nigerian, moving to the US roughly like 2 years ago. So I actually was, should I say, among the first set of AADA. So just being involved in AADA. So it's just like that's like my home in directly. And what attracted me to the CAS, I think at the point of my career, it just felt like that was the next thing to do, because I started first in the CA pathway, which is something based in a UK, now defunct. It was a joint venture between SOA and the IFOA. Then I moved from the CAS to the SOA because I needed more knowledge. And then when I finished or got my associates in the SOA, I saw that I was more into the property and casualty side. And then I saw how the CAS was way more relevant to what I was doing than what I was learning, because of a lot of things you've said earlier. So I just felt like it was the needed thing to do to move forward for my career. And that was why I switched.
That's awesome. All right, Gloria, how about you?
Yes, nice to meet everyone today. My name is Gloria Asare, and in terms of my connection to the continent, I actually grew up in Kenya, though my family is from Nigeria and my husband is from Ghana, so I feel like I have multiple different connections. However, right now I am based out of Toronto in Canada. I did live in the US and worked as an actuary there for 10 years before coming to Canada. But for now, I am currently a vice president at an insurance company called Zurich, which is one of the largest global commercial insurance companies, meaning that we insure other companies' things. So anything from the insurance airports would have to any satellites that are in space and the insurance that they would need, or rockets, as Samuel was referring to earlier. But of course, things on the ground as well, like businesses and the trucking fleets and things like that. That's what we do. Yeah, nice to be here today. Happy to be here today.
Fascinating. Thank you very much, Gloria. How about you, Aubrey?
Yes, Aubrey Chewe is my name. I'm based in Botswana, but I am Zambian. Looks like everybody is not based in their country. I am Zambian, and really the focus, I'm coming in from accounting and consulting, from a chartered accountancy. So business was really more what we were doing in terms of consulting. But I started off with actuarial, I think it was more interest and passion for maths than anything. But so I took the SOA exams, and I think I was just flowing through, I guess. And then I realized I just had a chance meeting with an FCAS, Mundia. He's based in the UK, and he was in Botswana, and he's also Zambian. So I just didn't know about the CAS. So I think he just explained and said, look, where you are in Africa, life is pretty much important, but Africa is going to be like the US in another 5 to 10 years' time because the continent is growing. And I think I just related from that perspective. And considering that I was coming in from business, we're already doing some consulting with some banks. We just, I think, extended off the offering, I think, into that. That's when I switched off from the SOA path into the CA path. So I think that's pretty much my history.
Awesome. Now, same question for you, Elvis.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Elvis Wanasunia. Based in Africa, Kenya, Nairobi to be specific. I think among the panelists, I'm the only one who is in my current country as well. Yeah, so the first time I got interested in general insurance is when I was in my final year of university. Actually, most of our university content is actually focused on life insurance. So general insurance is kind of like introduced towards the end. And like how I got interested in general insurance is there was a student summer program by the Casualty Actuarial Society. So it was posted by one of the students in our school actuarial society club. So I just kind of applied for it. Then I think after doing that program and like seeing something, let's say, interesting, because I was actually not exposed too much to general insurance at first. Like the entire curriculum is almost based on life insurance. So I kind of liked it, and it was more aligned with my passion, because I actually like kind of statistics stuff. You know, like earlier on, you are doing a lot of financial math and that kind of stuff. So when I did the program, actually, like I got more interested, and again, I was able to get a scholarship for one of the disc examinations at that point. So that was my initial encounter with the Casualty Actuarial Society, actually.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I'm already beginning to see something, sort of a theme of, how different paths sort of start from the life side and then eventually end up on the CAS side. And, I have a similar journey starting on the life and ending up in the CAS. I was born and raised in Ghana, so I feel like I need to represent. But like Aubrey mentioned, I'm not in Ghana, so we also seem to scatter. But staying on that point, that decision point, Gloria, do you mind touching on that as well? At what point did you decide that the CAS was the path for you?
Yeah, sure. For me, I think it was fairly early on. I personally had never really had too much of an interest on the life insurance or health insurance angle. But in addition to not having that innate interest, I also just thought that the range of offerings on the PNC side was so wide. Um, Again, I mentioned it earlier, and you also had it on your screen, but anything from, auto insurance, properties, thinking about climate change, catastrophe modeling, there's just so much more variety and things you can get your hands in, and that was an appeal to me from day one.
Yeah, and how did you hear about actuarial science in general? Or is this something that you found out in school, or did someone speak to you, like Aubrey had someone speak to him about?
I see. So actually, my whole life I was essentially preparing to become a doctor. I was set on it all through high school until I was just about to start my final year of high school, and my dad had brought home an article where someone had been interviewed. Elvis, I'm so curious if you would have seen this, although maybe I'm much older than you, and so this might have been before your time, because I was speaking to another Kenyan I met in Canada who said that he read the same article, and that was his first time ever hearing about an actuary. So they had just basically interviewed this person, similar to this panel that we're doing now, but they had written, like, it was obviously a newspaper article. And I was just so bought and convinced by this new area that had a lot to do with math, which was my favorite subject at the time, and and something that I had wanted to continue and felt that medicine didn't go too deep into. So that literally turned things around for me after doing some research into the career and seeing that it was one of the top ranking at the time, the good work-life balance and all of that. I just changed and pivoted right away.
All right. Now, so, for the students listening, I think the main takeaway here is that the career pathway is not just about the exams, it's about your passion, it's the things you're interested in. You're going to be on this career for a very long time. You want to be on a path that matches your interest, and there's no need to do what a lot of us did, go in one way, taking a lot of exams, and then eventually finding out we're not that interested. We're hoping that we can solve the problem by bringing the information early, and you can choose a path that you like early and stay on it. Now, one misconception that we sort of touched on earlier is that actuaries work in a narrow set of rules. Obviously, there's a lot that actuaries do. And so I want to stay with you, Gloria, and also bring in Aubrey on your day-to-day work life. So since you're talking, I'll let you continue, Gloria. Give us a little bit of a window into how your day-to-day work looks like.
Sure. So currently, my team, I lead around 10 people on my team, specifically reporting into me. And so I have a combination of both administrative duties for them in addition to core actuarial work. So a typical day, I'd have a meeting with the team. We'd be going over what are the focus areas for the week. I would take some time in that day as well to review some of the different accounts that they are working on in terms of pricing, because I'm part of the actuarial pricing team. So we help to determine and come up with the premiums for these commercial insurance policies. So I would review some of the work that they've been doing. In addition, I would at some point in the day probably meet one of the firm's senior leaders outside of actuarial just to hear about what are top priorities for them, how my team can help and assist them, get some candid feedback from them as to how the team is performing and how we could improve. In addition, I would definitely need some time in the day for the admin work I mentioned. So whether it is related to onboarding a new staff, interviewing for someone new to hire, approving expenses, or different administrative tasks like that. And then lastly, I also have my personal initiatives that I've been charged with for the senior vice president that I report into. So I would take some time to explore that as well. That would be something related to a special project that has to do with the longer term vision of the team.
I see.
I think that's it for me, Sam.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear about, not just the hardcore actuarial work, but also the administrative parts that goes on. So Aubrey, take the same question, but touch a bit also on what kind of tools you're using and kind of problems you're trying to solve using those tools in your day-to-day work.
All right, thanks a lot. Pretty much more closer to what Gloria does, but since I'm principal actuarial consultant at Kaleni, typical clients are banks and insurance companies and also pension funds, interestingly, because we do some investment products for them. But this is slightly not typical general insurance work, but interesting work. For example, banks, we run expected credit loss models for them. So I think these are reserves that are required on a monthly basis for central bank reporting and just for them to manage off their loan books. So typical is to have meetings with clients early on in the morning just to get to understand. I think you've got to understand some of the courses like professionalism course are quite very good in the sense that it gets you to understand and interact with the clients and be able to get exactly what the client wants, because I think this part, especially in Botswana, the client would not be having actuaries. So you are talking to non-actuaries. So you've really got to get to understand what they want, then explain to them what you're going to do. And then once that is done, I guess then you move on to discussing potential solutions with the team and then get the client approvals. But I think there's also then the bigger part, which is the team that deals with the deployment of the solution. So typical solutions are deployed on R, Python. So with that, then you tend to veer off by the end of the day towards sitting down with the software guys in terms of once the main product has been done, the model has been designed, you've just got to get the teams now to be able to deploy it, because in most cases, these are models that are going to run on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, or an annual basis, but they are mostly focused on financial reporting and just managing your business on a month-to-month, quarterly basis. So those are the three key guys we meet: clients, the actuarial team, and the coding team, the software guys.
So for a student who is listening, what would you say about your work would come as a surprise? If all they've heard about actuarial science has been in the classroom, what about your work do you think would surprise them?
I think the interesting thing is you get problems that are more linked toward business, and they are not generally defined in an actuarial context. So I think what the CAS has done is to build your ability to be able to look at problems that are pretty much more random, but it's just a business problem that has been thrown at you, and you've just got to be able to try and come up with a solution and then improve the solution. Typically, over 3 years, you've got a very good solution. By the time it's 3 years, you start from somewhere.
Yeah, so a lot of creativity needed there.
Yes, yes.
All right. I'll bring Matthew and Elvis in here, related to what we're talking about, but getting a little bit closer to the CAS curriculum itself and how it interacts with the real world. I remember when I was taking exams, there were times when I wondered how I was ever going to use some of those materials in real work. So starting with you, Elvis, where have you seen CAS material show up in the real world work that you do?
So I think for me, the first one thing I would like to mention. So when I was looking at the examinations, there's an examination on financial reporting. So initially we only had like 2 countries, like limited countries, like the US and Canada papers, but there was a recent one which I actually managed to do last year. So there's an exam on financial reporting, which includes content for IFRS 17 financial reporting. So what I've seen a lot, like in what I usually do most of the time. So most of the time I'm involved in financial reporting and also pricing. So in terms, I think the exam that has actually shown up a lot is financial reporting, the IFRS 17 framework, because most countries in Africa now report under the IFRS 17 framework. So in terms of what I actually apply a lot from this, so there are 2 specific exams that are kind of recurring. There's the exam 5 for reserving, so the normal reserving techniques from exam 5, and then from exam 6, that financial reporting exam. So there's a lot of emphasis on explaining how values have changed. For example, if maybe the premium of the business has grown, why has it grown, or how has it grown to that point? Or if the company has made a loss or a profit, then why has it made a profit or a loss? Because eventually this information needs to be translated to decisions. So I think the key theme of explaining why something has moved from point A to point B. So example, maybe my premium has grown. Is it because I have more clients? Is it because I've increased the price? Yeah. So I think that is a very important thing that I've found very useful in my day-to-day work.
And how did this impact the order with which you took the exams? Did you, as you mentioned, you were working and you used materials from the course to help solve problems at work. So did it impact the order that you were taking the exams at all?
Yes, actually, I didn't go in the specific order, just exam P, exam FM, etc. Actually, I jumped a bit. Actually, because when I joined the company, in there's a time like my second job. I joined the company in December during the end of year financial reporting, and think it was quite a tough time. So there was a lot of emphasis on the financial reporting, and I had no idea what to do. So sometimes maybe you ask someone, and know it was like a new standard. Not everyone is super good with it, so you have to look for the material. Then just had to, I just had to like go to a more advanced exam to get the ideas. Actually, I was using it mainly to also like complement my work in the my work, but I ended up like finishing the syllabus material, so I just did the exam. Yeah,
That
so
I like that because it highlights how practical these exams are and how you can literally take your exam material, put it next to you, and just do your work, day-to-day work. That's fascinating. How about you, Matthew? Are there any CAS materials that shows up in your real world work, and are there any ones you want to highlight or that you think has helped the way you think about risk in general?
Okay. Um, I think I'm the only one with few exams, and I've not written the upper level exam. So, but I think which might maybe relatable to a lot of students around here, especially coming from Nigeria. One thing that is very important, especially that is demanded in the workplace, is how to use Excel. As beautiful as Excel would look like, a very simple software, and I know we've talked about R and then the Python and everything, it's actually a little bit daunting to a lot of people in Nigeria, where I come from, you are not really exposed to Excel. So it's only when you have to work and then you have to use Excel, and then it seems like there's a lot of things you do not know what Excel can do. And as simple, so I started writing the CAS exam this year because I just completed my ASA fairly this year too. So I completed my ASA in the SOA pathway and then started the CAS. And then something that is very interesting about the CAS exam, which I would like to emphasize is that right from Mass 1, so I know Elvis has spoken about the exam 6, and if you're not in the financial, especially if you're just joining into the actuarial pathway, you would not be doing IFRS 17. You start with maybe like a normal daily work. And one thing that is very important in normal daily work is how to do a lot of modeling. And in modeling, you need to know what is available, like what simple formulas you can use on Excel. And Mass One, as simple as Mass One, which is statistics, you use Excel right from the exam, which was what was so different for me within the SOA. So in the SOI, the only time I didn't even make use of Excel all through the exams. It was, I think, okay, yeah, sorry. The exams, Excel was just only when I was writing OUTAM or ASTAM, which is almost like the fifth to the last exam. That is only when you're going to encounter Excel, and it's just only for one question. The other question, you have to write it. But Mass One, everything you can actually use Excel. There's a spreadsheet that is Excel. So, and there are some questions that no matter how good you know it, the only way you can solve it and solve it right is if you actually use Excel on you use the spreadsheet on the exams or the exams to actually solve it. So, right on from the first exam after the general exam, you're already coming in contact with what? With Excel and using the formulas and getting to know how to do all these tools, which was very insightful because really related to work. But aside from that, the next thing that was more interesting to me is I previously had worked in Nigeria doing reserving, and then currently I'm preparing for exam 5. And then what I noticed in exam 5 is more about how practical I wished I'd written exam 5 or I just interacted with exam 5 while working as a reserving actuary back in Nigeria because I'm doing exam 5, even though as much as exam 5 is beautiful, I see here about exam 7, which is even more reserving work. And I see a lot of things I did just out of curiosity or just out of playing with numbers that I was able to do. And now I'm looking at exam 5, I feel like, oh, I should have thought about this. Oh, I never thought about this. And I'm seeing it just reading the exam material because it's highly practical. It's just relatable. It's just like I should have. I think if I was aware of Elvis or heard Elvis story just as I'm hearing now, I would have just taken exam 5 material and just moved to exam 5 material to be able to implement it at my work because you just do a lot. concerned about the Nigerian market where reserving is the major stuff. So your exam 5, as basic as it is within this CAS, would help you to solve over 75% of your job, understanding your job, understanding how to do reserving monthly, understanding everything. So just exam 5 alone. But currently now, I'm currently working or doing something regarding pricing within the in the P&C, and that is something I wanted. In Nigerian markets, we focus more on the back end, which is reserving. In the international market, especially America, they focus more on the front end, which is pricing. So coming in working in pricing, I had no idea what we do in pricing and nothing. But then coming around, just taking exam 5, it's more direct. Currently, I'm working on one of the states doing the rate revision for the states, and then the questions that they even tell you CAS regarding some I'm currently in chapter 2 of exam 5, and I'm doing something about breeding the ASOP, and then type of question you have to ask. And it's so amazing that the type of question that you have to ask is the type of question you would need to be able to solve, to think further. So they don't just only tell you, oh, just write number, just only solve maths. The question is also type of possible question you see when you are dealing with numbers. What are the things you look after? It's so broad, and that's why the exam is tough, but then it makes you think a lot of things you would not be able to think. And that is just 2 of the exam, let alone talking about the DICs, which Elvis had talked about. I'd written the 3 DICs. Even though I started the exam this year, I'd written about 5 exams, and just permits me, that's not the norm, but I just took a lot of exams because I wanted to quickly get to my associate again within the CAS route. And then the DICS is so interesting. Like I started with the DA, which the DA is more, it was just introduced maybe like last year or something, as just a data and analytics and insurance. And then it gives the basic. I can remember I had a webinar section recently with University of Lagos, and then it was something about doing with insurance, and even it was about health. It was about health. And then because I was boxed up with a lot of things within my time, I just took the DICS material, just reviewed, took some points, and then shared it to the students. And the feedback I got is whoa, I never heard a lot of that insurance. I never knew I could learn something new in insurance. And in my mind, it was just the DICS. It was just DICS. It was nothing else. So there's a lot of things, and not to talk about the DICS RM, which is risk management, where you get to know a lot about risk management. You get to learn about things about insurance as a whole. You get to know about how each of the conditions within the insurance market, which will help you. Again, it's not in the Nigerian markets. Again, Nigerian markets, because I'm used to Nigerian market and just coming to use to the US. So even though, as Aubrey has said, I'm not in Nigeria, but I still, most of my experience is coming from the African market and US. So it's highly relatable. It might not be one-to-one, but what CAS so far had helped me is to see how to broaden your mind, how to even bring things that are purely maybe for the Americans or the CAS, and then how to think about how to use it within your market, how to modify it and make it better. So yeah, it's so far within just the short exams I've written, the mass one, the mass, and then preparing for the exam, and then the DICS, I've seen a lot. And currently, finally, is the PCPA, which is now compulsory. Prior to now, it was optional, but now it's compulsory. And I wrote ATPA within the SOA route. So this is no bash to SOA, but then this is just more about how more streamlined the CAS is. In the ATPA side, we were given a project which was highly broad. So even though you are live, you are not sure, you might do something on investment, something really broad. But then the PCPA so far, I've taken the exam, I'm preparing also for the project. It was really property and casualty. And why it's very important is that it makes you, like, again, specialize. You do something, and you might say, oh, it's just property and casualty is not useful. I worked in Nigeria space, I worked in the property and casualty space and the health space, and I could see how CAS is actually relatable to both the property and the health space, because both of them are a little bit short stem. So there are little bits on the health side that is if you specialize in the health, but then a basis of the property and casualty space will give you high knowledge on how to think differently in the health space. And lastly, I met a fellow lastly, I met a fellow of the FCAS, and that's when I just came into the US. And then I saw he had the designation of FCAS and FSA. And I was like, oh, did you pass through the same exam? He said, no, he had about 10, 15 years within the FCAS doing P&C. And then he got an opportunity within the health. And because everything he had learned was actually transferable, the only thing he just had to do was just a brief extra learning to just understand a little bit of the health business. And he's fully now transitioning and working optimally within the health space, just only from the P&C, just having the CAS. So CAS is not as much as beautiful as it is for the property, but it gives you knowledge in anything short, which they've listed above, and which health and the P&C would highly function. So far, so good. That has been how the CAS has highly been beneficial. And I can't imagine what will happen if I proceed further in the other part of the exam and see what I could have done and what I can still do within my diaspora into Nigeria market and also within the US market.
Yeah. What I love about what you said is, just how transferable the knowledge has been, both from book to your real work, but also how it transfers to different areas. And I like that you talked about the use of Excel. And I believe even in the predictive modeling, there's some R and Python that comes in there. And the CAS has been very forward thinking in making sure that we're bringing the tools that people use in their real work right in the exam process. I think that's phenomenal. It just goes back to the point that it's designed to be practical and useful right from day one. Now, so let's keep talking about this a little bit more, but now on the difficult part, which is how you balance taking exams and your normal life and so forth. That's a problem that all of us have had to deal with at one point, and what students are going to have to deal with. And I want them to go into this, with clear-eyed and with real expectations. This is not easy, but it's a worthwhile investment of time and energy. So why don't we go back to Aubrey and Gloria, if you don't mind touching on a little bit your experience of how you balanced the exam process with your life and work when you were going on the CAS pathway. And then Elvis and Matthew can chime in at the end if they have anything to add. Let's start with Aubrey.
I thought it was ladies first. Gloria.
No, I'm going alphabetical.
Just a joke. Yeah, I think for me it was slightly different because I think when I started, I was already running a business, which was growing and wasn't easy, needed money. And secondly, my family was growing. I think I was sitting on 4 children. And so my wife's 2 hands were full. So clearly needed extra help within the household. Mm-hmm. But I think overall, the balance wasn't easy. But I think what made it easier was to try and match the work I was getting with the exams, such that it was easy to read for work because work would pay you. And then you go and catch up for the exam so that you can progress. So I think that was quite, the earlier work we got had to do a lot with Markov chains. So survival studies, so that was exam P, which there was also exam C, which is now I think Mass 1. So I think a lot of that material was something like Elvis said, I needed to get a solution out for me to be paid. So then you have to get the solution out and then go and take the exam. So I think that's what helped with work-life balance. But I think the family was quite very understanding with the late nights and the dropping off, and then you dash off to go and read, or the shopping, and you're just remaining in the car and you're just going through some material. But I guess a different age, different time. But yeah, it wasn't easy, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, no, I love that. The family support is important, but also trying to match your exam journey with your career journey so that you're not, if you're doing hardcore modeling, you're not taking exams on financial regulations at the same time, because it's 2 different things, but you can try to make the friction less by matching your exam with your life, and that might make the weight a little bit more. How about you, Gloria? What would you say was the hardest part of balancing work life and exams?
Sure, yes. It was definitely challenging. I started out taking exams before I had kids, but certainly by the time I finished all my exams, I had two children. So in each phase, they had its own challenges. I would say that certainly with kids is another level, and something that I think a number of women have to face or question is, should I delay having kids until I finish my exam so that I can just focus on it? But something I think is worth mentioning is that that's not that's not always possible. In some cases, you could potentially be putting at risk your ability to ever have kids with the delay. So it's a reality that has to be faced. In my case, the way that I navigated it is just by really being disciplined and similar to Aubrey, like getting that support from my husband. We sat down to plan my schedule. So, this is the time I can have with the kids. This is the time I have to focus, and
Mm.
absolutely no minute went to waste in terms of while the kids are sleeping, studying, trying to study over lunch hour, after they go to bed, also studying. Like it was an extremely tight schedule. Um, but to your point, Sam, it was definitely worth it. The only other thing that I would add is not only in terms of getting the time, but it's also very important to make sure that you're studying the right way. And what I mean there is, I highly recommend speaking to other people that are taking exams. What is their view of the best study materials that you can use? Because if you're not preparing the right way, you could be sacrificing so much to get the time to study and show up and then feel as though you still weren't prepared for the exam. So those are my few points there.
Yeah, no, and one more question for you, because there's some people who are like Navy SEALs, like Matthew, who can take 5 exams in a year. Most of us have a lot of scars, you know. But yes, passing these exams are not easy. So how did you deal with recovering from not passing exams or having to delay exams because something happened in life?
I'm really glad you asked because that's also a big one. It can be very disheartening. And actually in the office when exam news came out, you sometimes someone would stand up and storm away after getting the results and they're not happy. It's very emotional because you could be spending anywhere from 3 to 6 months studying for an exam. I would say one of the most important things again comes back to speaking to people because you then discover and find out how many other people who you know are successful actuaries or they're on their journey and they also at some point failed an exam or another. It's a minority of people that have gone through and passed all their exams on their first try. Most people have an experience with failing. So when you hear about how they took it on, how they processed it, it can be very encouraging. It can be very encouraging.
Yeah. If you could go back to your younger self to advise your younger Gloria, given everything you know and the experience you've had on this journey, what's one advice you'd give yourself?
I'd say one piece of advice would be to just really take it on with a big enthusiasm. Like I mentioned this from the perspective again of the exams can feel like a big burden, right? Um, so much pressure to pass. You feel like it's an assessment of your ability to be a good actuary until again you realize so many highly successful actuaries also failed. So just that kind of boldness and bravado to take it on confidently and consistently maintain that level of confidence in yourself throughout, because it is a great profession and it is literally preparing you for to be an expert in insurance. It's not theoretical knowledge. In Canada, we have a number of insurance companies where the entire executive suite, their background is actuarial. So it's very practical. It's an enjoyable profession. Just have that confidence and bravado throughout.
Okay. How about a younger Aubrey?
Oh, younger Aubrey, I guess I'll just write on what Gloria said, and but I think I would summarize it as say, look, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So just understand that it's quite a stretch, and there is no need for you to really panic. Do this, take some breaks here and there, because life still has to continue anyway. And relax. The actual work itself is actually more enjoyable, and it's less pressured than the exam, because you can always consult, you can always go back and read material that is continuously being updated, and there's plenty of help around, and I think that's the beauty about it. So just relax.
All right, I'm going to stay with you, Aubrey, and then also bring in Elvis. Talk about Africa and the next decade, because both of you are working on the continent. And in particular, I'm curious as to what you see the biggest opportunities for these students to be. They're very early in their career. They're trying to figure out which career paths to take and so forth. And we've touched a little bit on why Africa is ready, but what opportunities do you think they should be focused on, and how it fits into the big picture for Africa? Let's start with you, Aubrey, and then Elvis, you can add your thoughts.
All right. Thanks, Samuel. I think there are two great opportunities. One, there seems to be a merging of accountancy and the reporting framework with actuarial principles guiding how the numbers should be prepared. So I think with IFRS 17 coming into the picture, we're seeing regulators in most African countries pushing for P&C reserves to really be certified by an actuary. So I think there's lots of great opportunity that's coming in. It looks slow because it's being pushed by auditors, but I think regulators are also jumping on the bandwagon to just make sure that reserves that are being submitted are being certified. In the past, it was mostly life reserves that were certified, but now I think P&C reserves, it's almost mandatory for them to be signed off. And I think that is going to go across Africa. Secondly, I think there's plenty of big projects that are coming through in Africa, and there's lots of funding that is getting into Africa. With that happening, GDP is increasing. Definitely, you're going to be seeing P&C premiums increasing in volume, and I think that's where the casualty actuary exams comes into play, because now, before most of the business is written, it possibly the insurance company has got to underwrite that business, and I think there's great opportunity in that space.
Excellent. So, Elvis, take that same question and then, a little bit twist to that. What do you think universities and students should be paying closer attention to now, given what's happening on the continent, and how you think it creates opportunity for them?
For me, what I've been seeing is this artificial intelligence movement, this ChatGPT, Claude software. There's a lot of software advancement, and when you work in most of the companies, you realize that most of the African companies are using softwares from other markets, for example, the UK, the US. And what I'm seeing with the advancement of these softwares, with this cloud and these generative AI softwares, which help people to kind of build sophisticated models, let's say more easily, relatively. So I'm seeing as of course the risks emerge and the AI movement comes in. So I'm picturing a situation whereby companies will be able to collect more accurate data. So number one. Then number two, since it's easy, it might be easier for people to maybe do some of this modeling. It could be a good point for people to maybe build more sophisticated solutions, maybe integrating them with AI, because I've seen most of the legacy systems that are being used, they haven't necessarily yet included some of these software stuff. And again, when you look at the pricing side of things, so you realize that most of the countries, the pricing is not that active. So you just see people using a reinsurer rate or using the minimum rate possible. But I think as we get more and more data and things improve in terms of data collection, data storage, at some point, I believe it should be possible for companies to be able to price their products more accurately. So, of course, using these tools and um, yeah, so what I'm thinking is there could be an opportunity in the future as we collect more data to maybe price our risks more accurately, or even just price the risks, because in most cases we don't really take pricing seriously, as in the more advanced markets. I think I'm also seeing since because of the movements toward technology, I think for the future actuaries coming in, you may need to dig into these other softwares. These are Python, and maybe use this generative AI appropriately. Because if you don't, I think there's a very high risk of becoming irrelevant, because you might take a lot of time if it completes some very simple problems, I guess. Yeah, so I think I'm seeing more on the technology side of things, like as time passes and we are able to collect more data more accurately, we're able to build models more easily. So there's a great deal of opportunity there.
No, that's great. And you know, that's an excellent point, and something that Matthew also mentioned. You know, there's something someone said to me was, what AI is doing is it's providing solutions more easily. And so what's going to be important is how to ask the right questions, because it can provide the answer, but if you don't know what questions to ask, then you don't know what you're doing. And I think what this training and CAS actuarial pathway does is, like Matthew said, it helps you think about the right questions to ask, not just how to calculate a bunch of numbers. AI can do that now, and 5 years from now, it can do. I don't know what it's going to be doing, but being able to ask the right questions, and I think getting the proper training through the CAS pathway can do that. So that's excellent. All right. I want to be mindful of time, so I'm going to do one last lightning round. Just quickly, in a word or one short phrase, I'm going to go around and each one tell me why you would recommend the CAS credential, given everything we've talked about. And I'm going to start with you, Matthew.
I was hoping I'll be last. Okay, one word, but then I would start off or continue from where Elvis stopped and then just summarizes. Yes, I do not think it's going to be in the far future, and I think it's now, and that is why CAS I think is going to be very important. Is again one of the things that made me move from Nigeria out to the US in order to get more knowledge is because, like I mentioned, Nigeria is majorly focused on reserving. Even as little as the auto insurance, it's actually not really priced. It's just you just give like a rate, and then depending on how you can bargain, you shoot it up, you reduce it down, and then maybe like the government also have a standard rate. How did they calculate it? I asked my actuarial friends there. They just say, oh, they just have a numbers. Like there's no like a clear cut way on how to do that. And just to point on whatever you said again, there's going to be a lot of data coming out. Even they're as simple as granular data. A lot of African nations do not have a lot of granular data. Like if we have to break down the risks, even in third party example, what type of who did this, who that do that, we won't be able to get the data. And what AI is going to do is going to make those data readily available. Like it will be make it available even in the shortest form, not even thinking about big data, just simple having all the necessary breakdown of risks. And if that is available, we need those that already have the knowledge to be able to help to bring solutions. It's not by that time that we want Africa to now start saying, oh, we need to import people with those knowledge. We should have those people readily available, already thinking about it as it's coming, that they're already looking at it and say these possibilities are here, these possibilities are coming. They are preparing their senior management for what is coming. Not that you just meet them unaware and then put them into an issue that they have, and then and you know, management, they just want it now. They do not know that it takes a lot of time. They just, oh, they are seeing the problem, they want a solution now. So we need people ready on ground, preparing those system down, making it available. And there's no other person now to do it than the experts. We just need to have the expert on ground. And again, in Africa, again, Nigeria, my reference points, we just only have few policies that we price. We only have few policies that we take the risks. And coming into the advanced system, I see a lot of risks that we should have it readily available in Africa, especially in Nigeria, that we are not thinking about. And the main reason we are not thinking about is maybe because we feel like we don't have sufficient money or we are not going into that risk. And the more advancement coming to Africa, as we know, the more projection we are seeing to Africa as the next place for markets. Those things are going to be demanded. If maybe not by Nigeria, maybe the investors coming into Nigeria to invest, they will demand those, how to edge those risks. And if you do not have, it means the growth that we are looking for is not going to be possible. So if we want to make the growth that we are looking for, we need to actually build the CAS as much as possible. The life is very good. Yes, we want to protect our life, but then to make sure that we enjoy beautiful life, we also have to have necessary amenities. We also have to have the capacity to build growth. And you cannot take risks if you do not have a benchmark to cover you, to calculate your risk, justify it, and the rest. So the CAS is actually more needed in the African market because of where we want to go to than the life. Yes, we want to live 70 years, you want to have money, but then how do you want to enjoy that beautiful life? You need to make sure that those risks are provided. And that is why CAS is more important. And I tell a lot of my Nigerian friends, again, I tell them that yes, I'm still Nigerian as much as I'm in the US. There's something, is one of the scare that someone told me was like, oh, I won't be able to sign some of the papers. The papers are more for the life side. I said that is not true. There's no way in the FRS Nigeria book that you have to only be a life person to sign documents. No, you can sign anything. And currently now we have people that are life actuaries actually signing for the property and casualty because you only need to be certified with the FRC. So they are signing technically what they do not fully have a knowledge of how broad that is. But then because they just need the paper and then you just need to be an actuary to sign. When things start coming out, we need those that, and again, in Nigeria, there's, I don't know, the NICOM is doing something where most companies are more composite. You have the live, you have the P&C all together. So just one actuary is sufficient to sign. Now they are trying to demand that everybody separate. You have to have the live, you have to have the P&C separate. So if you have to have that separation, there's also going to be need for more P&C actuaries giving those. And not to overemphasize it, we need those that are experts to do it. So in as much as looking at, oh, we don't have few people, and which can be another scare that, oh, there are not a lot of people to support me. We need, again, someone has to start the boat, someone has to paddle the boat. So just like how we have Elvis doing it in Kenya, and then we have Aubrey in Botswana and Zambia there, we also need people in other different Nigerian space, like Nigeria, like Ghana, where they are experts doing it. And when we have like those quorum, we begin to build more people that are more interested and see how important, and then the industry see how important the CAS is. So yeah, it's not a future time. We need those layers built now so that we can enter into the future that we want Africa to be.
There's a mic drop moment right there. All right, so Matthew, what's your one word?
The time is now. CAS is actually
all right.
the right time.
Gloria.
I think I recommend the CAS credential because it is a globally recognized premier credential. You won't regret it.
Aubrey?
I recommend the CAS pathway simply because what you study is what you're going to meet in the workplace. So you are ready to actually start running with minimal consultation.
Finally, Elvis?
For me, recommend the CAS because I think the course is well illustrated. Like, it's practical and well illustrated.
Very illustrated. All right, so we've got the time is now. It's a globally recognized credential, and you're not going to regret it. Study, translates directly to work, and it's very illustrative. Thank you very much, panel. This has been a wonderful discussion. And I think the students benefited a lot from hearing directly from you. So, Katie, I'm going to pass this back to you.
Thank you. What a great discussion. I mean, so many highlights, so many takeaways, so many things I could have underlined and quoted. So really, really appreciate everyone's participation in that. We have a good number of questions. Yvonne, I wonder if you may be able to queue up like a couple of good questions that we'll get to in just a second. But before we kind of turn it over to the Q&A, I wanted to ensure that we share a little bit about the ways that you can stay involved in the CAS, particularly if you're not ready to kind of take the first CAS exam. There are some ways that you can start to affiliate with the CAS and ensure that you are up to date on what's happening. So the first thing I will share here is Student Central. If you're not already a part of it, I encourage you to join. It's a free membership where you can gain access to webinars, practice exams, learn about scholarship opportunities, and get on our mailing list so you hear all the updates that I just mentioned. There's a QR code there, which you can scan and join. It's also easily searchable on the CAS website. We also have a couple of learning opportunities that you might be interested in. The Student Summer Program, which is taking place right now, is an annual offering where students participate for 8 weeks, engage in weekly teachings, and also are paired with mentors to kind of learn the fundamentals of property and casualty or general insurance. This same content is taught through a online learning program called PNC Actuarial Essentials. This is the license that we are offering as a giveaway with today's webinar. So this is a program that you can log into, go at your own pace, and kind of earn a certificate for completing the program. So you can demonstrate to future employers that you really know what you're talking about when it comes to general insurance. Also, if I may, I'm going to turn it back to Samuel for just a minute to share about the CAS Trust Scholarship. This is another opportunity that we wanted to be sure you were aware of.
Yeah, and this is a great opportunity for any student anywhere in the world to apply to the CAS for scholarship grants. Usually the awards are $2,500 or $5,000. And typically about 8 to 10 students are selected each year to receive the award. I serve on the Trust Scholarship Program. I see applications from students from all over the world, including from Africa, and I will encourage students to apply for this. The one thing I want to mention is, as you can imagine, it's highly, highly competitive. The requirements usually are an essay. There's a lot of weight that's placed on the essay, as well as recommendation letters. And one problem for Africa is usually professors will have a very short, statement, or they'll let the student write something small and then just copy and paste. And it really doesn't help African students when they apply for the scholarships. And I've seen really good candidates not get very far because they just didn't have very good recommendations. So I recommend that you look at this, because that's potentially $5,000 that could help you a lot in your studies. But secondly, if you're going to do it, that you spend some amount of time talking with the professors or employers or mentors, whoever is going to write your recommendation, to let them realize how competitive it is and how important it is that they write very, very strong recommendations for you so that you can do well in the competition to get these grants.
Thanks, Samuel. Again, the Trust Scholarship opens in January. Signing up for Student Central is one way to ensure you're aware when that is open. I'm going to skip to this next one. We have just created a WhatsApp group for CAS candidates in Africa, so you can scan that QR code and join. If you are planning to take CAS exams or considering even jumping on the CAS pathway, this WhatsApp group will be an opportunity for us to stay connected, have questions answered in the meantime. We may even roll over some of the questions we don't get to answer in like the next 15 minutes or so into that group. So we do encourage you to join. I'll leave this up on the screen for just a few more minutes, but I would love for us to take a couple of minutes here to address any questions that came up.
Great. I think, Katie, you handed that over to me, right, for the
Yes,
questions?
please. Do you mind?
Okay. I am going to direct the questions to the panel. So we do have a lot of very interesting questions. I have been of two minds because some of the questions are focused on the exams, but I'm very impressed by a lot of the candidates moved on to like practical questions, which is great. That's what the CAS represents. So I'm going to try and maybe just ask a few related to exams and then see one or two, if we can touch one or two that are more in depth. So maybe just a basic one. I know this was covered. Someone asked this question and Katie already answered it. So the question was whether they can sit for CAS exams physically in Zambia, but maybe I will try and broaden that question to, can you sit for CAS exams in various African countries? And I don't know if Katie or Samuel, you want to address this one, because I know we've had discussions on them.
Yeah. I mean, one of the primary reasons that the CAS selected Pearson VUE as our partner is because of their global access. So when you go to register for an exam, you will see the current list of available centers, but we regularly work with Pearson VUE to ensure that we meet the demand wherever it is in the world. So if you do not see your country or you're anywhere near you located on that list, we can work with Pearson to ensure that we open it. We just need to know from you. So I included my email address when responding to Joseph, I believe it was, about that question, but you can email international@casact, CASACT.org, and let us know that you're looking for a center that is not on the list, and we will see what we can do about that. So we do need to hear from you, but we are currently offering exams in many of the places that all of you are coming from. I know for sure we have centers in Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Botswana, and other locations as well. But again, don't let that be a barrier. Please reach out to us first.
Great, thank you. And the next one, the panelists can just chime in. I know there's no correct answer. So the question is, what's the best study materials recommended for passing the exams? Maybe if you can just mention one or two that you've used that you really liked. So anyone on the panel can chime in, maybe. Otherwise, I'll call some names.
So I'll say something. I think it depends on the exams. There are, I think Gloria mentioned something earlier. It depends on the exam. So for like Mass 1, Mass 2, I use the Coaching Actuary. I love Coaching Actuary. It's very good. I like how it simplifies. For exam 5, I'm currently using TIA and Coaching Actuary because TIA has more question bank than Coaching Actuary because they just started. For exam 6, depending on which one you're writing, they have different one. For 7, they are rising Actuary. They are a lot. So it just depends on the exam and starting. So if you're starting with Mass 1, Mass 2, I think Coaching Actuary actually does a lot of good job regarding that. And you can also try TIA.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
I think
maybe what
Gloria.
I'll add, yeah, just very quickly, what I'll add is that I completely agree. I think the big message is not to presume that one material provider is best for all exams. I agree, even for the upper level ones at the time, I think Rising Fellow, Casual Fellow, they were newer ones. Crystal Clear Exams is another one. There's a mailer study manual. So, and then it could change. Like we could recommend some now, and 3 years from now, a new one will come up that people say is great. So I would just continue to ask that question over time. But I completely agree with Matthew there.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess if somebody's going into an exam, you recommend they do their research. And how might they be able to find out which ones they can use?
Speaking to others that just took the exams.
Yep.
Okay.
Or using the CAS WhatsApp chat group.
Exactly.
Just created.
Exactly.
Yes, wonderful. Because I was about to say, when you say speaking to others, I guess people don't have many others, but the WhatsApp group will be great to use.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on. So one question here. What are some key behavioral and technical pitfalls that candidates sitting for CAS Foundation exams must anticipate and mitigate to improve exam performance under time constraints? Elvis, you're smiling. I don't know. Maybe I'll ask Elvis to answer that one since you've taken a few as well recently.
So I think one thing you might find yourself in trouble with is if you don't do sufficient practice. So if you don't do sufficient practice, sometimes you might find yourself spending more time trying to understand like what approach am I even supposed to use over here? Like you might take some longer time before you can actually design a solution to a problem. And actually you might run out of time because of that actually. So I think one of the major issues is if you study and don't practice a lot, like you don't do it repetitively so many times that you get used to it, you might actually run out of time during the exam, as well as just what do you call it, typing. Yeah, you may need to do it. You need to do it. You don't just read and maybe and write somewhere. You have to kind of have to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think doing practice questions are extremely, extremely, extremely important. Not reading is not going to get you to the end. Definitely. Okay. I mean, we have quite a few
Let me
questions. We're not going to get
add
through
one
all
more
of them.
to
Oh,
that,
go ahead,
which is
Samuel.
because a lot of these exams are now in Excel. Doing the practice gets you familiar with what kind of, and it's not the normal Excel. So some of the shortcut keys you might know might not work. So you need to get familiar with the environment within which you are taking the exams. And also you learn very quickly that you cannot spend all your time making your solution look beautiful because you're going to lose time. Right? And so doing the practice helps you identify your own things that could be a trap for you on the exam. So practice, like Elvis said.
Thank you. And then this
Sorry,
question is... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, as a non-CAS person, Samuel's question there just made me really worried because, and I think it's important, because I'm not CAS. I did study CAS. You do the exam at an exam center, so definitely you're not taking your own laptop there. How do you practice? How do you get ready for the fact that you're going to do the exam on a computer that you've never seen before?
That's an excellent question. So the CAS actually has a sample. They have a web page that looks exactly like what you'd see on a Pearson VUE computer. And so even though you're using your own laptop when you're practicing, you get to experience the same kind of surprising things that you would find surprising in a Pearson VUE center, and it helps you prepare for that. So this is a problem that most students will face, and starting early, trying to do your exam practice using the Pearson VUE sample, or if you're using coaching actuaries and the rest, they're all trying to create that kind of environment to make it very familiar and get you ready for the exam. The sooner you start, the better.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I think that was a very pertinent question. I actually didn't know the answer, so I've learned something today too. Okay, we have one question that's specifically about the discs and the PCPA, which I thought would be good to answer. This one was from Samuel, and he's saying it's quite timely. So he said he did some research on the qualification and would like some explanation on the discs in the PCPA exam and project. So I know this was in the presentation, but I think maybe it would be helpful just to go over it a little bit more, just so they can understand what that is. And I think maybe between Samuel, Elvis, and Matthew, you guys are familiar with these, so Elvis looks surprised. Okay, maybe Samuel and Matthew, go ahead.
Okay, so the discs is there are 3 discs currently, so they're like modules where you read some materials, just try to make you, it's not as difficult as the exam, but then it's like to give you some basic introductions that you need to understand regarding insurance, regarding the P&C, regarding the possible like like the PNs, like the DICS RM, for example, is risk management, telling you more about risk management, and then telling you about introduction to insurance, where you deal with personal insurance, commercial insurance, all the available insurance that you have, and making you understand what's it's needed, what do they insure, why do we need this, what are the things that are covered, what are the things that are not covered. So they're trying to make you understand things, concepts or context that you need for the exams. Example, like DA would help you if you're writing Mass 1, give you extra insight. Or if you write the exam first and you're writing DA, you'll be able to see that they overlap. RM will give you insight if you're doing exam 5, because the beginning part of where they tell you about each of the different type of policy that you have to price. But then to really understand those policies, you learn those knowledge from the DICS. So it's similar to VEs in, but then it's more a little bit more tailored to property and casualty. Why the PCPA? The PCPA is more an introduction into predictive analytics. So we have like a pathway where we have the I think it's the is it the CASA something where you have like the advanced project stuff? So it's just like an introduction to help you to get used to AI tools and to help you. Again, we understand that Excel is like the foundation, but now we are moving into R and then Python. So the PCPA is where you take on a project majorly on how to use generalized linear model, where you've learned in Mass 1 and Mass 2. Then you are now using it to price, which you would use from the knowledge of exam 5. So you are trying to combine what you've learned in Mass 1, Mass 2, Mass and exam 5, and you are building a project which is you're trying to price a certain portfolio using GLM, but then you are using those two. So PCPA is actually like a project which you do in your normal work scenario, but then you are doing a project on the exam that is within 2 weeks where you have to learn. So it's more practical and then more predictive analytics inclined, like the name says. So I don't know if Samuel has something more to add.
Not a whole. I mean, I think you did an excellent job answering that. These are foundational courses, and so they're just giving you the tools you need, both for practice and for the later exams. Whether it's the concepts around insurance coverages, or whether it's the tools like R and Python and Excel. So that's what those are for.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just take one more question. I think this one will be for Aubrey. Since Aubrey has an accounting background. So this question says, what advice would the panelists give to exam takers whose current job is not actuarial in nature, that will make it easy to navigate the exam journey?
Yeah. All right. I think the first thing is the exams are not easy. They're only meant for, I don't know whether it's a top 10% or 20% to pass. But that being said, I think what becomes important is make sure you network with everybody that's in the field. I think the WhatsApp group is going to be very helpful for you, because you're going to learn a lot from what other guys have done. But also be very careful when exams are changing, and the CAS exams are mostly being updated quite frequently now, with most of the monographs coming out. So the material then becomes quite very important for you to understand and be able to get help from the others that are already possibly doing it. You may not really get people that very deep into specific fields, but Actuarial Outpost, I don't know what is being used now. We used to use Actuarial Outpost. I think it was quite a vibrant environment. Matthew, Elvis, what are you using now?
Is it Reddit?
Is it the WhatsApp group? Pardon?
Reddit.
Oh,
I think some
Reddit.
people
Yes.
use Reddit, WhatsApp
Yes.
groups. So Matthew, what do you use?
So I'm more, so there's a group I use on Discord, like it's a very broad actuarial group. It's called Actuarial Group, and then yes, the Reddit is also very important. But I'm more into the Discord group. It's an actuarial group on Discord.
Okay, thank you. We're showing our age now, because I'm Actuarial Outpost. That's what I know. I don't know anything else.
Same
I was very sad
But I've
when
heard of this
Actuarial
Reddit
Outpost,
one.
by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it's anywhere where you can have forums to chat. So it seems you search to see if there's an actuarial one. Yeah. Okay, great. All right. I mean, we're pretty much out of time, but like I think there was one question here which I thought maybe Samuel and Katie could just use to, as the last CAS closing words before we do announcements. So there's a question here about what are the most effective low barrier initiatives the CAS has used in other emerging markets to boost visibility among university students. So specifically, could things like sponsored local case competitions, virtual university visits, or localized mentorship programs be leveraged to show students the unique value of the CAS pathway?
Yeah, I can start, and then Katie, you can fill in anything I miss, but all the above. So, for example, in South America, we use a lot of case competition. We have the university recognition programs that provide cases for professors to use with their students directly from the CAS. We have a lot of virtual programs with various universities and student organizations, both in Ghana, in Kenya, in Nigeria. We attend local actuarial conferences on an annual basis. So we're doing all of these things, and we want to do more. But we've realized that there is an information asymmetry when it comes to the CAS, and actions like what we're taking today are meant to try to bridge that gap to make sure that people are aware the CAS exists, and they can also raise their hands and invite us to come talk to their students. So, if you know of opportunities that are available right now for us to speak with your students, for example, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to look at it.
Yeah, I think you got it, Samuel. We have a Africa Regional Working Group, which Samuel and Gloria are a part of, and others. Yvonne, of course, is a part of it as well. So we have a whole group of CAS members that are eager to support. So come to us with your brilliant ideas, please. I'll put the email address that you can use here in the chat, international@casac.org. That'll ensure it gets to a member of our team and we can follow up.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hopefully, you've paid attention to the email address that Katie has put in the chat. So thank you very much to the panelists, to Katie, Samuel, and everyone else. This has been really, really thoughtful and insightful. I'm just going to hand it over to Yeside quickly to do some announcements, and then we'll announce the winners of the competition. Go ahead, Yeside.
Thank you very much, Yvonne, and well done to all the panelists. I think it's an exciting world to see us there. I qualified in the UK, so who knows? I didn't have and I qualified pre-Excel, so I'm that old. But can I just check everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Can I see a couple of thumbs up? Fantastic. So not too many announcements from ADA at the moment, but we'll just set up hold on, let me see. Okay. So what we have coming up is we have the ADA mentor-led CAS P&C Actuarial Essentials program, which I think is the prize for today. So, if you put down your questions, some people will be lucky enough to be on that program. It's a weekly mentor-led session. It'll be 6 weeks, and it's a really good program. So at ADA, we're looking forward to being able to offer that to students across the continent and being able to grow the actuarial knowledge on general insurance on the continent. We're going to inundate you with WhatsApp groups. There's an ADAP WhatsApp group, so please, if you want to join that as well. We do have a lot of, it's a community, we do have a lot of groups going on there. We have the volunteer mentors, we have the actuaries lab where they solve questions from time to time. We have the educators network, we have the young professionals. We do some tutorials that's a bit closed, but we'll have that on that. It's a one-stop point for everything ADA at the moment. Then we have a couple of other upcoming events. We've kicked off the mentorship program that started yesterday. We've paired that. I think this is going to be a 12-week program. Please do watch out for the next iteration of that if you cannot make this one. We've done the CAS accreditation pathway. We're going to do an IFOA one on the 13th of August. We want to make sure on the continent that everybody is aware of all the possible paths that are available to them in its entirety. Then we have what we call our Student Success Program. That is a program where we have people who are going to write exam P, exam FM, and we take them through a 12-week tutoring process to improve their chances of qualifying, and the SOA has gladly sponsored that with the exams. But there might be some people outside as well who are paying for the exams on their own. So we're going to invite them to 2 days of revision classes to come and get some knowledge on and to prepare them for the exam P. Again, as I said at AADA, our aim is to make sure that we get our continent moving quickly. That's the most important thing. However, by any means necessary, is that the right phrase? By any means necessary. So we also, at the end of the day, we have in Q3, Q4, we're going to have ASA, which is the Actuarial Society of South Africa. It's the biggest actuarial society in South Africa. They write exams. We're going to do a pathway with them as well as with the IFOA. So look out for that in Q3, Q4. Please do follow us on LinkedIn. We tend to put all our announcements for all our events on LinkedIn, so do look at that. These are where you can connect with us. You will find that our YouTube is also quite a big one. Whenever we have webinars like this will make its way onto YouTube. So if there's something you've forgotten and you want to go have a bit of a refresher, it will be on YouTube for you to go back to from time to time. That's our contact email address, and our website is also there. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand back to Yvonne to see about the winners of the competition.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Yoside. So yes, we've had lots of discussions, lots of questions, very interesting questions. We do have some of our, we noted we have some very dedicated AADA people who have put some really great questions on the chat, including Temwa, Alfred, Benjamin. We've seen you, we have seen you, but we decided you've won too many times. So we tried to encourage other people who've also put their questions out there to get the prizes. So, but thank you very much. We do recognize that you guys are always there and on it, and you did put some very good questions. So our winners for today are Oyewole Ifedomola, I hope I said your name right, from Nigeria, and Samuel Macharia from Kenya. You both were very enthusiastic with your questions. So thank you very much. To claim your prize, please get in touch with us at contact@aada.africa, and we will make sure that you have the information you need to access. So these licenses actually just give you direct access to the licenses now, but we will, allow you to join the mentorship session as well if needed when that opens. So you feel free to apply for that when it opens. So we'll make sure you're included as well, but you get access to the licenses immediately you sign up. All right. So with that, I think that's all from us. We hope that this session has been very educational. You've learned a lot. I certainly learned a few things, which I didn't expect to. So that's great. So I'll say thank you very much to our panel for sharing your experiences. Thank you to Katie and Samuel for organizing, and also to all of you for your participation. I think this has been a really great webinar. And with that, I'll say thanks, everybody, and have a good day. We'll see you again shortly. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.